What's this? Brad Befus in our YouTube studio? Hold on, here we go. That's like butter. Well, howdy friends. Brian Flechsig of Mad River Outfitters and the Midwest Fly Fishing Schools, and it's a very special episode here on the YouTube channel. Sitting to my right, on the left of your screen, none other than our good friend, Mr. Brad Befus. Brad,
Brian,
it's great to have you here in the studio. It's great to have you here at Mad River Outfitters. And it's just great. You know, many of our viewers know of you from this, and many of our viewers know of you from countless other additions to the industry and things that you've contributed over the years. Goodness gracious, we can go through Ross Reels, we can go through all the different vendors, but tell us a little bit about your job today. What do you do in the fly fishing industry to share with our viewers?
Sure. So since 2013, I've been with, or a little before that actually, since 2009, I've been with Scientific Anglers, and that brand was acquired by the Orvis company in 2013. I was the director of sales for Scientific Anglers up until 2017, and took over as president of the brand. I have a great team there in Midland, Michigan at our global headquarters and manufacturing facility. And then serving in a dual role now, starting in August of 2020, I also took over as the global wholesale leader for the Orvis fly fishing, wing shooting, and apparel business.
So you're not really doing much. You just kind of
not a whole lot.
You just kind of slacking off.
But you know, it kind of ties my passion for sales. For both you and I have been around the industry for a long time, a lot of years, and product drives a lot of that, but so do these relationships. And it's, I love working with our dealer base, with our sales rep base, our consumers that are out there, our guides and outfitters as well. It's never much like a day of work when you're loving what you're doing and you're passionate about it.
Well, I've been doing this for 32 years, basically since 1989, fall of 89, 1990, I started really full time. You've been in 1984.
84.
You started working in a fly shop.
Just a youngster.
Yeah. So and to be honest with you, I mean, you and I are not that old. I mean, we still hang out with people that are older than us.
This is true. This is true.
And work with people that are older than us. But still, we mentioned earlier that in our industry, in the fly fishing industry, we're kind of dinosaurs. There's not too many people that have been working in the fly fishing business since the 80s. But I know we both still feel like we have a long way to go, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I know that you have fun and a great passion for your job, and so do I. I've been running Mad River Outfitters basically 6 days a week for 28 years, and prior to that I worked 4 years in a fly shop in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I still wake up in the morning excited to come to work. I mean, I wake up at 3 in the morning and the wheels are turning, and what am I going to do today? What video can I make, or what kind of partnerships can I hammer out? But Mad River Outfitters has been an Orvis dealer since 1994. In fact, we were an original full-line Orvis dealer back in the day. And I think once we started branching out, we became a Scientific Anglers dealer in 1999. And if I'm not mistaken, we were probably one of the largest Scientific Anglers dealers going, maybe, or thereabouts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you guys are so diverse here at Mad River Outfitters, and your location, your proximity to warm water, the big lakes just north of here, some of the travel and trip hosting that you do, for a brand like SA, where we've got so many fly lines for so many different applications. You've got an audience and a target market even locally that's not just specifically based on trout, like maybe other parts of the country and in the West, or you get up in the New England states.
Yeah. Well, we sell, I mean, for example, probably not too many shops carry your jungle tapers, but we have them. We're in Ohio, but we have probably as big of a selection of saltwater lines as any shop in Florida. No, it's diverse, and obviously we do business over the web and worldwide for that matter. It's really been a great partnership, and I think, you know, with you and I and then the other parts of our team that we work with, we've definitely seen the relationships between Mad River Outfitters and Scientific Anglers, and Mad River Outfitters and Orvis grow exponentially, even over the past, especially the past 3 or 4 years, but over the past 10 years, both of those relationships have flourished. And I think it's because of friendships and partnerships like this, which you alluded to earlier.
Absolutely, and we definitely appreciate, you touched on it earlier, that waking up at 3 in the morning and the wheels are turning. That's exciting. That enthusiasm and excitement for the sport and education and bringing people in to the sport, and I think that very much aligns with Scientific Anglers and Orvis from a brand perspective of taking care of the resource, educating anglers, trying to improve their experience on the water with what you're doing, with these product videos, with what you do with your Midwest fly fishing schools. And then being relevant within the conservation world and protecting the resource and thinking about that going forward as responsible businesses or partners in this industry. Those are all things that are near and dear to our heart and part of our mission of both of our companies. So we definitely appreciate those partnerships, and they're special. And you're right. I mean, over time, there's friendships that are formed. It's even outside of business. And you and I go way back, and have a shared passion for this industry and the history of fly fishing. And those are the things that are most meaningful to me. And we definitely, from the business side, appreciate your business, and for me personally, definitely appreciate the friendship that you and I have had over the years.
That's, I think, the real special part of our industry. But also, you got to have the product. You have to have the product in order for us to get excited about it and sell it. And you guys do. Scientific Anglers, really since you guys took over, you took that company from kind of being down here on the bottom right back up to the top. And the things that we're seeing coming out of Orvis, is just, you guys are doing some really great stuff. You're really bringing back that really premium brand that's really bringing some of the best products to market. So that's exciting to see. So
thank you.
Just let's talk just a quick moment about the state of the industry. We kind of touched on this earlier in our meeting. Kelly Gallup and I have talked about this before, but I think the state of our industry is strong, and I think what we're seeing is this huge component of youth and the next generation coming into our sport. Can you talk just a pinch about that?
Yeah, I think, as we discussed earlier, I mean, there's definitely been a trend of new participation in the sport.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like for a few years things had maybe stagnated a little bit. But, through, again, education, things like social media, I mean, it's been able to expose the brands or the sport, the activity, to a much wider audience of people. It's also something that can kind of be a bolt-on if there are other outdoor recreation activities, if they're a paddle sport enthusiast or a hiker or a backpacker. Fly fishing, I think as an industry, our dealers, the brands, we've all started kind of pointing people to make some of those connections. So it's definitely brought youth. It's definitely brought, some more diversity in terms of the angler types, because we're starting to open it up and expose it to a broader group, where it was maybe a little bit more, historically way back in the day, it was a pretty tight group.
Pretty elitist.
It was, and certainly, like we talked earlier, it's been exciting to see young, if there was kind of a new revolution in fly tying a few years ago that's definitely stuck. And
a
lot of new participation there from an art and a creative standpoint, and kind of building a sense of community around fly tying and seeing a lot more of that in the sport of fly fishing. It's definitely, to me, from what I'm seeing, and I think you would probably echo this and what you see with your customers, it's definitely become more inviting. There's a tremendous amount of education out there, and you're able to reach the globe in a platform like this, which didn't exist when you and I were starting. I mean, we were talking with the celebrities at a trade show or reading a magazine article or a book and just trying to glean as much information as we could. With
and
a
that's
lot
all
of
we
trial
had,
and error.
yeah.
And you can make it as complicated as you want, but I think what I see from the education side is that has just continued to flourish, and there's more content, more available to the consumer, more good content to help with that learning curve. And I think that was from my retail days, and I think you and I've talked about that. That's been one of the hardest barriers, is like our average consumer or participant coming in. It was just overwhelming. Like, where do I start?
Yeah.
So education's been key, and absolutely the youth and broader diversity of different angler types coming in is the future of this sport. So that's exciting to me.
You used to be out on the store floor, and it used to be that we literally catered to a 65 to 75-year-old man demographic back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That's just what it was. And now I go out there, and there's kids, and I don't want to stereotype, but I see kids that I would normally think of, and I would think that they'd be riding a skateboard out in front of the shop. Yeah. And again, I don't mean to stereotype anybody there, but they're not riding skateboards out in front of the shop. They're coming in and they're tying flies, and they're fishing hard. My dad, who's right about 80 years of age, he used to call me up and he'd say he was concerned about the state of the fly fishing industry, because he'd go to these fly fishing club meetings, and he said everybody's 65 to 75 years old and hardly fished anymore, and there were no kids at the meetings. And I said, well, Dad, that's because the kids are all out fishing and they're not going to meetings. I said, you hang around in Mad River Outfitters and you'll see those kids. Yeah. And Kelly sees it out at the Slide Inn. And Kelly has a huge following of 20, 30 somethings that didn't know who he was, and their dads don't know who Kelly Gallup was. They're all tying flies, and they're all pushing the boundaries. And another thing is, I think a lot of those kids are way more inclined to pursue other fish. And I think this is an important part about the future of our industry. I told you the other day that you can go on our social media page on Facebook, and I got an email. I said letter, it's like VHS tape, I got a letter, a guy sent me a telegram. He sent an email, and he's from the United Kingdom, and he said, "Dear Mr. Flechsig, you've inspired me to fish for other species and odd species of fish." And he sent a picture of him holding an eel that he caught on a fly rod, and I'm sure we'll probably flash the picture up there right now. But this young man went out and caught an eel on a fly rod, and the response was overwhelming. People just chimed in, how cool is that? And I think you're starting to see this youth that's a little more open-minded, and they're willing to chase bass and pike and muskie and carp on the fly. And I think we're starting to see some of those walls and those barriers come down, that elitist trout snobbery, we're starting to see those walls kind of crumble. And I know that you and I were, you wrote carp on the fly. There's been pike on the fly. We've made efforts at this, but it's never really taken a concrete hold. And I know that in honor of our good friend Dave Whitlock, Dave was always a champion for warm water and trying to push bass and smallmouth and carp on the fly. And I think we're finally getting there. I think we're going to carry his torch forward. And you mentioned that Orvis and Scientific Anglers have some initiatives to focus on some of the warm water and not trout.
Yeah, I think certainly from the tackle and gear we bring to market, and I think talking about some of those different species other than trout. If we think about saltwater, we think about warm water. The gear and the tackle has advanced tremendously since we first got into it.
Yeah,
and again, I think that's helped with newer anglers coming into it. They didn't have a preconceived notion that this was all about trout fishing, right, in the West maybe. So. Yeah. you know, tackles changed, fly development has just absolutely blown up. You know,
it's unbelievable.
Barry Reynolds and I did carp on a fly. We were just basically using bonefish flies and some trout stuff that we just made work, trying to learn, just trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And now I go out and I look in your fly bins, and you've got a whole section devoted to carp flies.
We have a section
and many
of
shops do
carp flies.
So it's you know, it's cool to see that transformation and just different mindset and thinking around it.
There's been so many fly tyers too that have literally changed the game, and I use that pun on purpose because you've got Kelly Gallup, you've got Blaine Chocolate. You know, Kelly changed a lot of things for a lot of people. In fact, I hear people talk about pre-book and post-book.
Right.
Kelly created an entire industry for me. He has a whole fly bin, 300 different fly patterns that weren't there when I started or when you started.
Right.
It just, those kind of flies we didn't sell. And the bass flies, there was a Sneaky Pete, there was a Dave Whitlock's mouse pattern, and then we basically threw Clouser minnows. And now there's there's just bass flies after bass flies after bass flies. We've come a long way with smallmouth flies. Blaine Chocolate and the Game Changer and the whole series of Game Changer flies. And Blaine pushes the limits between flies and lures. And you know what? I know it's cool by you. Why not? Who's to say that a fly has to be a chicken feather wrapped around a hook and light on the water? You know, that's just not necessarily the definition of fly fishing, and I think we're changing that. And I'm glad to hear that Scientific Anglers, Orvis, and some of the vendors out there are paying attention to that, and they're going to help us in our mission to make everybody realize that a bluegill on a fly is maybe even a little bit more fun than
I was going to say, I think if bluegill grew to be 3 or 4 pounds, probably would not fish for anything else.
I would
honestly.
never leave the state of Ohio. Why would I have to? So, well, cool, man. Any other exciting news? Anything coming down the pike?
You know, always from the Scientific Anglers and Orvis side, you know, we're always pushing to improve upon tackle and gear, you know, with the mindset we want to solve problems for anglers. And you know, lead in terms of technology, new technologies, and if we can improve our mutual customer, the participant in the sport, their experience on the water, that's kind of our approach to our new product development and you know what we do.
Yeah. Well, this is big news here. This is in fact, you just saw this today for the first time.
In print form today. Yep.
So this is Orvis 2023 right there. I've got it right in my hands, and some really cool stuff, both on the tackle side. Of course, we should mention superfine fiberglass. Superfine fiberglass is being redesigned. It's here at Mad River Outfitters. Excellent fiberglass rods, some of the best I've ever put my hands on. There's a link down below us there. And just a lot of cool new stuff coming from Orvis, a lot of the stuff you expect from them, some hybrid wading shoes, and then we have a bunch new apparel and soft goods coming from Orvis. That Mad River Outfitters, we've been selling a lot more of your clothing and the soft goods because you guys are just knocking it out of the park. But the other thing you and I should mention is our bright orange fly line program.
That's right. So we're really excited to be working with you and Mad River Outfitters on that.
Ditto.
You know, much of your pushing and prodding with me and emails back and forth and conversations literally over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to be coming with an exclusive fluorescent orange line program. A couple different families, several different tapers.
Yeah.
That kind of fit the all-round taper, bass and warm water taper, and trout taper specifically.
Yeah.
And that'll be coming. You should have those in the store and on your website probably October 1.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's a big deal. For many of you know that I am a huge, and this was taught to me primarily by Flip Palette, and Flip just ingrained this in my head. And then as I bought into it and started traveling around, then I have just guide after guide after guide that says, hey, that bright orange line is a godsend because the guide can see it. It helps them tell you what to do. I can't say enough about it. Years ago, you guys used to make a lot of bright orange fly lines. They were popular in the industry, and then somehow, some way, somebody thought that maybe they would spook fish, and bright orange fly lines went away. So, and one of the problems that we've had over the years, I'm out here promoting bright orange fly lines and nobody makes them.
Right.
You know, there's only a handful of them out there. They weren't available in the different tapers that people might need. And then there was a huge lacking in the medium price range. So if I'm not mistaken, we're bringing out, what are we bringing out? Two maybe of the frequencies?
Two of the frequencies. Yep.
Two of the frequencies, so they come in at $49, $59, $95 retail, somewhere around there. I hate to quote prices these days because they're always going up. But
It's a changing world.
Yeah. So that's really exciting news. So the Mad River Outfitters and Scientific Anglers have teamed up, and we're going to have a full range of prices and tapers of bright orange fly lines. And I think one of them, some of the running lines, we wound up calling it Creamsicle.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
That was Linda's idea. I'll give her credit for that. She's like, we'll call it Creamsicle. And they're really gorgeous lines. And of course, Scientific Anglers, a leader in fly line technology and coating. So we're glad to partner up on that. So stay tuned on that. We'll have plenty more coming at you. So, well, that's probably enough talking. I know you got to get on a plane and get back to Michigan and start making orange fly lines.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Brad, it's a pleasure, man.
Always. You bet.
You bet, man. It's let's hope that that you and I, in another 30 years, we get to make another one of these videos talking about our 120 years combined in the industry. So
Now you're dating us.
yeah, right. All right, well, friends, thanks as always. Special thanks to Brad Befus for being here, for Scientific Anglers in Orvis, for, I'm sure, paying for his plane ticket to come to Columbus. And thanks for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it. So, as always, friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you don't miss an episode. Hit that like button. That'll make both of us feel really good. And stay tuned. We've got a lot coming at you. And be sure to see this video here. That one's not that good, but this one down here, that one's excellent. You'll really love it. So stay tuned.